Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I am Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, and I'm going to ask you all to bear with me for just a second, okay? This is going to be a little bit different. Um, I thought this would be an interesting one to talk about. What we're going to talk about is a cartoon. It's a British cartoon that basically is kind of like a mixture of like the British version of Tales from the Crypt mixed with Goosebumps for kids, and this what we're talking about is called Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids, and it's a series of short stories. And this one here is called Doctor Moribundus, and this is actually an interesting little horror story for kids. Um, you have this basically you have a narrator, and he's got this pet spider. I think it calls him Spindle Shanks or something, and it's you know they tell all these different tales, and basically the idea is supposed to be these are like kind of like horror morality stories for little kids. And this one here, there's only, as far as I know, there's only like two DVDs, and believe it or not, I only got this for 25 cents. That's all I had to pay for this was 25 cents. But I believe there's only two of them, but you can stream these online. And yeah, this one here comes with 6 episodes, and the first one is called Burger Skip, which I do have to admit, okay, this one kind of bothers me because it doesn't really fit into the style and the tone of this show and what it's supposed to be, and it doesn't really work with the other stories because this one here, the like I said, you have this kind of crypt keeper, kind of a narrator, and he's telling the stories. And the first one is about this guy named Oswaldo Berger, who he wants to basically he wants to chop down all this rainforest so that he can graze cattle, so that he can, because basically he owns a chain of fast food restaurants. And the guy is supposed to be like really um, kind of a diabolical kind of guy who wants to take over the world kind of a guy. And he's supposed to be really evil and stuff like that. And so he buys all this rainforest land that he's going to destroy and everything. And the native the Indians, they tell him, don't do it. If you do this, you're going to hurt the land, and you're going to pay for what you've done and everything. But he, doesn't matter. And there's this large tree that reaches up to the sky named Panachek, and he tells him, do not chop down this tree, otherwise Panachek will come back and punish you for what you're doing wrong. The guy's like, I don't care, it's all mumbo jumbo, just tear it all down. So he takes a giant chainsaw and he cuts down the tree. And so but then the odd funny part is it's like, the very next day, like a little girl, she goes to buy a burger at one of his fast food restaurants. Well, her dad buys it for her, and she starts eating the burger, and then she realizes there's like a little tree growing out of the center of her burger. And then, so this Oswaldo Berger, he's all talking about like, what the hell's going on here, and they're saying, well, now we find out it's not just hers. Apparently it's it's happening in burgers and restaurants all over the country and all this. And then the Indian comes in and tells him, you've really done wrong, and I'm here to see you suffer and pay for what you've done, and all this other kind of stuff. And then so anyway, so he starts to attack the Indian, but then this giant tree breaks through the floor and carries him up into the sky, and he's never seen again. And then basically London pretty much turns into a giant rainforest. And like I said though, but it's not a terrible story. It really doesn't fit into the it doesn't really fit into the style of this. But the other stories really do kind of fit more into that. The second story is called the Barber of Civil, which is about this barber. He's kind of mysterious, and he's got this long tongue. He's always and he comes into this small town, and what he does is he goes and he rounds up like all the really awful children, like the kids who are just foul mouth and always talking back and always just being disrespectful and stuff like that. And I don't want to give away too much, but let's just say that when like when kids are sitting there, being foul mouth and talking back and everything else, like parents will sit there and say like, oh, you talk back to me, I ought to, sit, I'm going to take you and rinse your mouth out with soap and water and stuff like that. Let's just say he kind of takes that a little bit to the next level. And yeah, so yeah, it's pretty good. but yeah, kids need to learn to keep a civil tongue in their heads, what you find out in this one. The third story is called The Chipper Chums Go Scrumping. Now, scrumping is basically like a British term meaning stealing. And what it is you have this group of kids, they're just kind of out, kind of having a day. And, you got like this girl, Sam, and what was his name? Peregrine, just so many, you got these kids and they call themselves the Chipper Chumps. And so they're out, having this adventure and they go out and they're near this farmer's land and they decide that, they're going to just hang out there, have a picnic. So they're having a picnic. They fall asleep. They get up. It's like, well, I guess it's time to go home. Oh, but we haven't had an adventure yet and all this stuff. And so, this one little girl, she decides, she wants apples because the farmer has apple trees, and so they decide, yeah, let's go scrumping. We'll steal some apples, and he'll never know the difference and stuff like that. So they steal the apples and everything, and they start eating them, and the farmer comes and he catches them, and they're like, yeah, we're sorry for scrumping, but just let us go and all this stuff. And he's like, no, no, I can't let you go because I need all the apples I have for my cider. And so the kids are sitting there, well, we can't give you the apples back, we ate them. And I'm gonna let me just put it this way, okay? His idea of getting the apples back from the kids involves a 10-ton cider press. So just take that for what you will. The fourth story is called The History Lesson, which this is kind of a basic story. It's you have this little girl, Elizabeth. She's getting ready to take a history exam, and so it turns out she doesn't bother to study. She doesn't do any of that stuff. She's just kind of flying by, and so she goes in. They're taking the exam, and she's upset because now she realizes she's gonna be in trouble. She didn't do any studying and all this stuff, but she ends up meeting a ghost, who it turns out you know, was actually in the class and burned down over 100 years ago. There was a fire in the school, broke out, and this girl, she didn't make it out. And she's like, every year on this day when we have the history exam, I have to come back and do a little bit of haunting. And she's like, oh, that must be awful for you. No, I'm good at history. She's like, well, you would have if you had to be here for 100 times. And she's all like, so are you saying you want me to take the history exam for you? And she's like, yeah, so let's just say it doesn't end well. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. Then the next one is called Sweets. Now this story is about a little boy who he's one of those kind of kids who he's always causing trouble, and he's always whining and complaining at his mom for not buying him sweets. And she's trying to explain to him, like, look, I'm not just, you go out and do this stuff, you do these horrible things, expecting me to give in and buy you candy and stuff. I'm not going to do that. She's like, when you start showing me that you could start acting responsible and start behave yourself and don't go around causing problems and everything, you do that, then yeah, I'll have no problems buying you candy then. But he doesn't want to do that. And this boy Thomas, he just doesn't want to do it, and he just keeps causing more and more trouble and everything else. And his mother, she's at her wit's end and everything. And at one point they're in the park, and he's just plopping down on the park benches and stuff. And she's all like, come on, we got things to do. I need you to keep up with us. And he's all like, yeah, I can't, I'm weak. You won't buy me any sweets. And and she's all like, I already told you, if you start behaving yourself and you start, being respectful and mind what I say, then yeah, I'll start buying you sweets. And he's like, oh, you're horrible, and I never want to see you again. And everything. So he takes off and running in the other direction. And of course, she's calling and but he doesn't come back. So he kind of ends up in this kind of eerie part of town, and he notices this sweet shop. And so he goes in, and the guy who runs the sweet shop is really creepy, and he's got like all these, they look like kind of like plaster, almost like oh, what do they call them? Oh God, the name escapes me now. Just kind of like papier-mâché dolls and things like that. And, he's all like, are those dolls moving? It seems like they're moving and stuff like that. And so, the shopkeeper, he's all like, let's get you some sweets. And so he lures him in and, yeah, it turns badly. That's all I'm going to say, so, because this kid's not, behaving himself. Yeah. It goes bad for him. So, and then we get to the last episode here, which is Dr. Moribundus, obviously the name of the DVD here. And this story concerns a little girl named Laura Lee, who, she's constantly, and I admit I've been guilty of this as a kid growing up. It's like I didn't like going to school much, and I admit I've been guilty of this. And she's one of those kind of girls. Like she'll, do these little scams to try to get out of having to go to school. Like she'll, fake illnesses. And like at one point she'll be sitting there like at the table, like she'll take the thermometer out of her mouth, put it in her mother's teacup so the temperature will rise. And, so it seems like she's got a fever and, she's like staying in the bathtub for too long. So it's like her skin is flaking off and stuff like that. Well, at one point she goes too far with it and she's all like, oh no, yeah, I've got rabies. And she's got, like basically it's like, like she brush her teeth, and just kind of let the toothpaste and stuff kind of like foam up and stuff like that. And she say she's got rabies and she can't go to school. And, yeah, she's going to have to stay home for like 2 days at least and stuff. So so the mother, she's, freaking out and everything else. And she calls the doctor. Doctor comes over and examines her and he's all like, yeah, when did the rabies start? Before or after you brushed your teeth? And so she's kind of getting on that, like this doctor's onto her and knows she's not telling the truth. She just don't want to go to school. So he tells the mother, he's all like, you know what? He's like, I'm going to deliver. Basically, it's going to be a prescription. And so he's all like, it'll be here tonight. And, just, whatever happens, go along with it and everything else. So, and she's all like, well, is it going to cure my daughter of her rabies and stuff? It's like, oh, it's going to cure her of a lot more than that. And so later on that night, this doctor comes in. His name's Dr. Moribundus. And he's got an assistant with him. And the assistant, every time he talks, he's spitting everywhere. And so they go up to see the little girl. And she's like, get out of here and all this stuff. And, and he's all like, yeah, huh? And he's all like, yeah. And this doctor's very sinister. He's almost kind of like got like the black twirling the mustache kind of a thing going on here. And so then he's all, yeah, you know what? He's all like, I think we got a little girl here with a case of no schoolitis. And so he starts doing these things to her. And, it's like he's pulling out this really giant needle. And she's all like, no, wait. You don't need it. No, not that needle and everything. I'm fine. I don't, I'm not sick and everything. He's all like, oh, I know. This is just for fun. And so he's like doing these things to her. And, it's like putting leeches on her and all this other kind of stuff. And, he's all like, we're going to do this to you. And she's all like, is it going to hurt? And he's like, oh, I certainly hope so. No pain, no gain, right? And so he's doing all this stuff to her. Well, the next day she's, she ain't doing this shit no more. She ain't gonna, she's gonna go back to school now and she's, done playing her little jokes and pranks and whatnot. She's going back to school. So, but anyway, though, that's the 6 episodes on here. And I'm gonna say though, while it is entertaining, it is fun. I'm gonna be honest. This is really some of the most primitive animation you've ever seen. I mean, that kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. And so if you're going into this expecting kind of like top level, kind of like Pixar entertainment animation, you're going to be disappointed. But, this has gotten some bad reviews, but honestly, I think it's kind of fun. It's enjoyable. Some people may think that it's not really suitable for kids, but I don't know, to each their own. But honestly, I think this is a lot of fun, and I actually recommend it. I think it'd be fun to check out. And if you got kids, they want to get into horror stories, this would definitely be a good one to start them out on. And of course, they're morality tales. It's teach kids to behave themselves is a good lesson, and also. But anyway, that's gonna pretty much wrap it up. I think I've talked on for too long as it is, but Anyway, this is going to do it. We talked about Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. So if anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the Body Bags channel. We have wonderful reviewers every day of the week. Everybody's doing great stuff. I'm the Saturday reviewer, and yeah, so also too, if you want to check out my personal channel, Sinema77 Horror and Cult Film Lover, except cinema is spelled with an S, not a C. So, but yeah, I do movie reviews and video hauls and stuff like that on my own channel. So yeah, check it out. Good stuff. I honestly think it is. But anyway, that's enough self-promotion. Anyway, everybody take care. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of the week. And I'll see you next Saturday. Bye-bye.